Hi, good morning, everyone. Sandeep, can you hear me?
Yes, all good.
Great. Hope everyone is able to hear us and see us. Welcome, everyone, to this webinar on leading business transformation with generative AI. We have a distinguished speaker with us today. Trent Gillespie is going to be presenting this webinar today. And I'll start with a quick introduction to Trent's background and experience related to the topic. And then we'll hand it over to Trent. Trent has over 20 years of hands-on innovation and technical leadership experience, with almost 9 years in senior leadership roles at Amazon. During his Amazon tenure, Trent has managed Amazon's global expansion efforts across all of their businesses and geographic locations. He's been instrumental in ensuring Alexa's AI integration, and he was instrumental in bringing all the innovations to the Alexa product, uh, along with meeting the global privacy expectations. Trent is a sought after speaker, consultant, innovation expert in the AI circles, and he's been consulting with a number of Global 100 as well as mid market clients. And I'm glad that Trent was able to make time to speak at this webinar today. And I will hand it over to Trent shortly. Um, I will also be doing a small piece in terms of what we are doing at Quadrant in terms of the generative AI related initiatives and solutions. So that will be towards the end of the presentation. We'll probably spend 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap up the session with Q&A with all the participants. So that's our plan for today. With that, I would like to hand it over to Trent to get us started with the webinar and walk through the great session that he has planned for us. Over to you, Trent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sai. It is great to be here. I'm honored to be on the program and to be able to communicate with your partners and everybody who's out there and listening to this today. All right, let's go ahead and bring up my presentation here. If you can pull that up, Sandeep. All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to start with this, a short story. So my first business I created was actually in the early 90s. It was a computer bulletin board system. At the time, we were so impressed with technology because we were, for the first time ever, able to start using these personal computers that were available at home and beginning to be available to everyone to connect with others around the world. We thought technology was changing quickly. I mean, I was upgrading from like a 300 baud modem to a 1200 or 2400 baud modem, and the sky seemed like the limit. Now, since then, we have seen continual improvements in technology. And it's hard to imagine what would have happened over those following 30 years between then and now. I mean, we've seen things like the cloud, of course, social media, video streaming, ERP, CRM, voice over IP. We've seen so many different technologies being invented since that time. It's been unbelievable. And I've been able to implement a lot of those at different organizations, being an IT leader or at Amazon, where I was able to manage its global expansion, also be able to support its delivery and innovation portfolios, building the high scale infrastructure it needed to expand across the world, or even in Alexa, where I was part of helping make sure its machine learning and AI processes were appropriately private. So I've seen a lot of this firsthand, and I'm able to say that I've never been excited as much as I am now about generative AI. Now, you might think that's a bit of a hype, and I'm going to tell you it is important, but what you've been hearing about in other presentations where they've been trying to hype stuff up, they haven't really told you the reasons why. And so today, what I'm planning to do is to spend the next hour with you, giving you specific reasons as to what's going to be changing here, I think, and how you can best take advantage of it as a tech leader. Just like through my IT career, I've moved from being an IT leader in different IT roles into helping with Amazon's global expansion and innovation. I see the power of using innovation and generative AI to launch your careers forward. And so there's three things that I'm going to be able to talk about. First, we are going to go through this big picture of what generative AI actually is going to be like. And then second, we're going to talk about that tech leader opportunity of how you can begin to take advantage of it for your careers and your companies. And then thirdly, we're going to go through some specific and practical steps to get started. Because you don't have to be a large organization to start using generative AI and start getting these benefits. And there's a lot of confusion out there. What I've seen, a lot of people are out there trying to sell generative AI without really giving that instruction. You need to get started in a business environment. So I hope to help you with that today. Now, a few other notes. This is not a tech talk. You can go out and find a lot of information about generative AI and how it works and the foundational components of LLMs and all these things in every other webinar that's out there all over online. Instead, I'm talking transformation, just to set the expectation, again, for your companies and your careers. And then secondly, we will take questions. You can go ahead and put those in the comments, and we'll put those on the screen a bit later. I probably won't be able to take them during the presentation, but we will have time toward the end. All right, with that, I want to start talking about this thing. This is a steam engine. I'm bringing this up for a couple reasons. The steam engine is often referred to in other presentations as being some corollary to what generative AI is. And I think that's true. And I'm going to go into this in more detail than probably anybody else has. So in 1698, the steam engine was invented. And it was originally invented to just pump water. That's it. And it didn't really work well. In fact, it took about 70 years for that steam engine to go and grow across the world and become so omnipresent in business and industry and society that it started the Industrial Revolution. And that time frame is really important, 60 years or so. And that's how long it's taken a lot of these disruptive technologies in the past to affect societies. And that happened with the steam engine. Of course, it created new industries, it caused population shifts, and a lot of people made money off of it when they got involved with it and figured out new ways to use it. That's the important point. New industries, population growth, standards of living increased, and people made a lot of money. But it did change things. It was disruptive. And it was the 13th GPT. Now, you might be sitting here thinking, I thought I dialed into an AI talk, right? And you thought we were maybe on GPT 3.5 or 4, maybe 5. So what does the 13th GPT have to do with anything? So I'm going to tell you that now. A lot of people don't understand this concept, but what it actually stands for is general purpose technology, not generative pre-trained transformer. Now, this concept is really important for you to understand if you really want to figure out how to take advantage of generative AI in business. And so what this concept was is that around the 1950s, there were some academics that sat down. They started realizing, hey, there's been different technologies invented in the history of the world. And when those were invented, they caused massive changes to our social environment, our political environment, our industry environment. And they started evaluating these. And they figured out that there were a lot of consistencies amongst them. And these consistencies included some things like they created capabilities that were very generalized and they applied to any industry and any use case, not just a specific industry like biotech or finance or whatever. And because these were so general and applied broadly, the adoption started to go through the roof. And because of that, they found brand new methods of invention. I mean, just think back to the invention of the computer or that steam engine. Nobody had envisioned locomotives when that thing was created, but they were able to create them. Or that they were able to create machines that would generate electricity. Those things were in nobody's mind, just the same as when I started that bulletin board system, I never imagined the cloud or online video streaming or any of these things that we can do today. So there's many new methods of invention that are always caused by these GPTs. And then finally, and most importantly, it lowers the cost of innovation. And so overall, the total amount of R&D and innovation goes up every single time, and your costs dramatically go down. And that means productivity goes through the roof. And this has happened in every situation we've had a GPT in the history of the world. Again, the steam engine was number 13. I believe that generative AI is the 26th GPT. And so the best way to think about it is in context of what I just said. It's not that this is equivalent to the Industrial Revolution. It's that it's going to make this much of a change because specifically the cost of R&D and innovation goes down a lot, and therefore innovation will go up a lot. Now, there are a few key differences for you to know about to understand this better. First, there are no physical constraints to generative AI, ultimately for businesses. I mean, think back again to the steam engine or electricity or computers. People needed to go out and mine the steel that was supported it. They had to manufacture it, design it, ship it across the world. For computers, they needed to purchase these, manufacture them, put them on everybody's desks and train people. There were huge physical constraints. Second, it's very low cost. It's essentially free. In organizations, yes, there's a cost to it, but it's very small compared to the benefits it will provide. Again, much less cost than those other GPTs that have come before. And then thirdly, everybody has access today. For the other ones that have occurred before, it's taken ages, decades, again, 60, 70 years for the steam engine, decades for computers, every technology we've had recently. But today, everybody in the world with a connection to the internet has a generative AI supercomputer in their pocket. That is why this is so hyped and why it's going to be such a big change. Now, let's shift gears. Let's talk about a little bit about what generative AI does. I'm assuming this audience is fairly familiar with it already since you're tech leaders. At a very high level, generative AI just creates new content. It doesn't do quantitative and predictive analysis, but it takes a bunch of data and it does something new with it. That's why it's called generative AI. I put up here a bunch of examples of things that it does. I want to just talk briefly about, because I assume most of this audience is pretty familiar with these already. But things it can do is like summarize a meeting. And people don't think of this as being very sexy, but this is actually where I'm seeing some of the initial inroads of generative AI in companies, because they're using the AI-enabled meeting management tools. And it does things like send meeting minutes after a meeting automatically. It identifies things like action items, what the actual minutes were, and can distribute them to people. And that's going to be a productivity increase for sure. Of course, you've seen chatbots already that are using it. It can respond to customer questions. It can do things like research, speeding up innovation that way, writing first draft documents. It can create new innovation opportunities. So as a leader, I talk to leaders all the time, and they're always thinking about what they can do to be more innovative. What they haven't realized yet is you can ask AI to come up with those ideas and then take them all the way through the innovation process. You can use it to create mock-ups. Literally, just a prompt is enough to create a visual mock-up today. You can do prototypes with it. Even functional prototypes can get created. And then lastly, you can write code. A lot of tech organizations, this is where they're starting. Most of the developers are now using GitHub or another development environment and their AI tools to speed up that development. And if you do this, yes, you can get some awesome productivity savings. These are some figures that I've pulled from some of the big consultancies. You can see our marketers up to a 220% increase in productivity is supposed to be possible. Customer service, sales managers up to 40, 50%. And then importantly, project managers up to 80%, software developers 50%. And I'm mentioning those two last specifically because those are very, again, focused on innovation. So let's take a look at this innovation process in one more way. This is an example of an innovation process in any organization. Some leader, somebody comes up with an idea. They have to then go plan it, build it, select it, get the resourcing for it, and then they go build it itself using whatever technology is available. That's straightforward, right? Of course, different organizations follow different processes. But let's look at this. If we add in AI and it's able to actually reduce any of that effort, let's say by 50%, which is the expected average right now at each one of those phases, all of a sudden your innovation process is 50% less. So let's think about that. If your organization and you as a tech leader bring in ways to use innovation or to use generative AI for innovation, and you can now do it twice as fast as your competition, that's going to be a huge competitive differentiation. And then when you look at this over maybe a time frame of a year to 2 years, you're going to be able to triple, quadruple, and many times outperform competitors and how they are bringing ideas to market. And so this is the point of generative AI and all of those GPTs I talked about. They speed up business, they speed up innovation, and they reduce costs all at the same time. It's a big opportunity, and that is an opportunity for you as a tech leader. Because who is it that owns R&D in an organization? In many organizations I work with, that ends up being the tech leader. I mean, you might not think of yourself as the R&D or innovation function today, depending on your role. If you're just a chief information officer, an IT director, maybe you just own typical IT resources, but maybe you've got some developers, maybe you've got some machine learning staff, right? You are often a huge R&D and innovation center. And that means you have the ability to take the lead here. Often, unfortunately, though, IT leaders consider themselves a cost center, and the business does as well. And so you have to be able to change out of that cost mentality. And I've seen this many times over the years. I've gone to conferences or articles or whatever, and they're always talking about how AI leaders need to change to create new value for the business. Tech leaders need to create new value, not just be cost centers. This is that whole idea. But now you're able to use AI and innovation to do that, to create that future value for your career. Now, I helped Amazon manage its growth throughout the world, and I did have that IT background, and I was able to move into this successfully. So I understand what that takes, and that's why I'm so excited for tech leaders like you to learn how to use generative AI. All I do these days is work with leaders to figure out the best ways to use generative AI and then share with them through training, advisory, and workshops and other ways how to do it to make them successful, because this is so important. And I believe full-heartedly that the future of business is AI powered. And what I mean by that is that every component of a business is going to be ruled essentially by AI. Many organizations already, of course, have machine learning models built into whatever applications they use, their reporting, their analytics, and that's amazing. What we're adding on top of that is generative AI to start doing work for people. And so you're not going to have a business going forward that doesn't have AI as part of it. You won't be able to sustain and compete with all of those other organizations. And so you as a tech leader need to acknowledge this and do your part in helping your organization accomplish it. Okay. And if you do that, your knowledge worker productivity goes up, your internal costs go down, and your R&D and innovation goes up. And of course, that means that the first movers are going to win. Once you get ahead with innovation, with bringing in generative AI in your organization, your costs are going to be unbeatable. And that's why there's some hype around this, right? People see the excitement, the opportunity, and the fact they don't want to get left behind. There was a company I was working with earlier this year, as an example. At an event I did about a month ago, I had their competitor come up and ask me how they should start using generative AI, right? And again, one person, one competitor, 6 months apart. So people are adopting it, and you want to make sure you get the cost benefit first. But when I talk to tech leaders, a lot of them are overwhelmed already. They've got large roadmaps, they've got legacy code, they've got, challenges with staff, different business priorities, all of these things. And when they think about generative AI, they feel like it's another burden, and they don't have the resources to do it because they feel like it requires a huge data science team, their own in-house LLM. And I'm here to tell you that you don't actually need an LLM to get started. So here's the practical instructions I'm going to give you right now so you can start using this stuff. Now you understand the context of it. It's what I call the generative AI adoption model. And so where you start is at experimentation. This is the bottom level. And this is where probably 90% of the organizations are that I'm working with today. They have just people testing it out. Some organizations approve it, some of them don't. But basically in every organization, somebody is using it. That's experimentation, and that's great to get started. But here's the deal. You get none of the benefits I've talked about if you're just experimenting. The company doesn't get new R&D, it doesn't get new innovation, it doesn't reduce its costs. So this does not help you out. Experimentation does not move your business forward or your career. What you need to do is move up this model to first task adoption. Now, what I mean by this is just making your employees allowed, approved, and educated enough to start including generative AI in whatever their business tasks are. Maybe it is participating in meetings. They can use one of those meeting minute tools. Maybe it's a project manager who can send meeting minutes afterward in a better way. It could be a salesperson who's able to generate emails to send to customers. Any number of different ways you can use this. But the point is, you enable people today to put it into their task process. And that's where you start getting the initial benefits. The next one is process standardization. And this just adds to the prior level with tasks. And what it means simply is you now, instead of having one person do this randomly in their role, you say all project managers will operate this way. All salespeople will include generative AI for this part of their process. And that is that standardization. And this is where just doing this third step, getting up to process standardization, that can get you 10 to 20% productivity improvements out of groups. It's totally possible with the technology that exists today. And it does not require an investment in a whole new data sciences team. The fourth level is customer offerings. Now, a lot of organizations, this is where they started, especially if they're a tech organization or they've got an AI product, a customer-facing product. What they did is they said, hey, let's go build a chatbot. And that's awesome. That's a great first step. But it's not honestly very unique. Now, everybody's done it, of course, right? So the opportunity here is to look at innovation to see what other ways can you use generative AI to affect your customer experience. And that is going to be powerful. And then the fifth one is looking at your core business model to establish new ways of doing your business that are better, faster, cheaper than your competition, or open up wholly new areas. Maybe you should be the first ones to go and create whatever the equivalent is of a locomotive. These are new business models, and that is going to be enabled by generative AI. And so when you're thinking about this as a tech leader, the key thing I recommend to everybody is start at the bottom and intentionally progress up these steps. It's easy to do, it's straightforward, doesn't require a lot to start doing it. Let's talk about the prerequisites for this. Of course, in experimentation, there are no prerequisites. People are out there just doing it today, so that's easy. As a tech leader, ideally you would do more than this, but you don't really have to do anything to enable it. But if you want to start getting the productivity benefits, like I mentioned, all you need to do to move to the task adoption level is put in policies on one hand and training on the other. Now, I put the policies in green here because this is super important. People are talking about all the risks around generative AI. Could be privacy risk, bias, security risks, reputational risk, whatever they may be. And those risks totally do exist. One of the things that I learned at Amazon, specifically in Amazon Alexa, is that having policies in place is your first way to mitigate those risks. All you need to do is say, this is the approved way in our organization that we are going to use generative AI. Maybe these are the things we will not do with it. So we will use it for things that maybe don't affect customers, and we will not give it customer information. Write that in a policy. As soon as you've got this stuff written down, your employees feel better about it, and you're reducing your risks of something going wrong. Of course, if you have policies, you need to train people on them. That's the second part. So you need to train people not only on what those policies are and what's allowed, but how to use generative AI in their jobs. And that is all you need to do to get to level 2. Again, no tech burden there. It's some coordination work. And so every tech leader should be at least getting these 2 steps in place. There's really no excuse not to have it right now. When you talk about policies, it's literally just putting in an acceptable use policy for AI. You can do more than that, but that's where to start. Moving up the hierarchy, what else is required? Approved applications. Okay. To get to process standardization, this is where I see organizations need to say, these are the tools we prefer you use, and ideally have them use some of your own company data, right? And so if you imagine like a sales team as an example, If that sales team can connect their generative AI into their CRM system, it becomes very powerful. They can create emails pulling in information about maybe past purchases, anniversaries, whatever it may be. And it's a very simple data source to typically pull in. And so you can get to the third level by just doing the stuff I've shown and figuring out which are the right applications to use. And pretty much all tech leaders have a process for finding new applications, vetting them, and rolling them out. So it shouldn't be a burden for you to get started with. Okay. I will go sidestep a little bit here and talk about one technical item. It's called retrieval augmented generation, RAG. Now, a lot of people are not yet aware of this, but it's a very important concept you're going to see lots and lots about over the coming months, because this is the ability for you to pull in your first-party data without your own LLM. And it's simple. Literally, all RAG means is you've got your foundational model over here. And of course, these are very generic. They're not trained on your company data. What this does is instead of having to build your own LLM or fine-tune it on your data, you just have another data store. It could be Google Sheets, it could be Slack, it could be OneDrive, it could be Azure or AWS. And when you connect it in, your generative AI app goes and looks at that for the authoritative data for your organization. And it's literally can be as simple as a 30-second upload of information. So this is something that you can start working on now. There's an awesome tool I suggest. It's a company called Credal.ai. They're really at the forefront of doing this in an easy way. Go check them out. You can literally have this running in your company tomorrow. Okay. And with doing that, you're going to be able to move up to that fourth level, which is where you have integrated your private data. Because really, to do good customer offerings, you need to have valuable data that you've connected to, and that's your own. That creates the differentiation, that creates the value to your customers. And this is where maybe you start thinking about that data science team, your ML team that you might need to have internally or through a partner. And then finally, when you get up to the business model changes, this is really where you need to have your in-house LLM. Because when you're trying to create a new business model that's dependent upon generative AI, you need those capabilities to be custom built. So what I'm trying to show here is that it's actually a lot simpler to get started with generative AI than you might think. And as a tech leader, you are the one who owns these resources, has the knowledge, understands the horizontal view across your organization of how each of those functions work, and you can get started on doing that very easily. But what are those steps? All right, this is the slide you might want to take a screenshot of, because I'm going to give you exactly what you need to do right now to start moving up this. Here we go. And the very first thing is you should create a task force. If you don't have a generative AI task force in your organization today, get it in place. All this is a cross-functional team that is working together to figure out the right ways to use generative AI in your organization. Generally, these should have representation by IT, HR, finance, business function, probably sales and marketing, something like that. It generally often shouldn't be led by IT, but you should be a key stakeholder there. And the only reason I say that it shouldn't be led by IT is because this is a business value creating one. You should be right there to support it, but it requires everybody. I think a senior leader is best to lead that task force. Number two, go create those policies I mentioned. Go get an acceptable use policy template or go create one. And you can do more than that. Maybe create a communication policy or AI tenets to govern how your organization will think about using AI and how it comes to maybe productivity changes. If you have an increase in productivity, how do you capture that back to your organization? AI tenets are very important too. And then when you have those things, just do training. There's a million resources out there right now to do training on how to write prompts, how to use these tools, and those are improving every day. Or go build training for your own organization. And all of a sudden, you're already up to at least level 2. To move beyond that, again, get access to your private data. Right now, you can go and assign somebody in your tech team to go and figure this out. And I bet you within the next week to 2 weeks, they will be able to answer this in an effective way, moving you forward to level 3. So we've now been able to literally the next 2 weeks, you can get your organization up to level 3 if you do this. Moving beyond that, though, is where it gets a little bit more complicated. To move up to the top level, what I suggest is you divide your efforts up into 2 different work streams: cost savings, cost capture, and innovation. And so if you have 2 different work streams, then you can prioritize and do more work. And I suggest a very easy way to start, which is identify quick wins. What are the easiest ways for us to take advantage of generative AI in that work stream? Maybe it's in sales, maybe it's in marketing, I don't know. But figure out the quick ways to do it. And on the innovation side, maybe that is a chat bot. Maybe it's not. Those are easy to do, but again, it's a quick win. But then look at the big wins. What are those strategic changes you can make to support your organization? That can get you going forward. Now, as a tech leader, this is all about transformation for you, right? How can you improve your career? It takes first you choosing to lead, looking at the opportunity, knowing what I'm talking about here now and understanding that and saying, you know what? I want to be a tech leader who can become AI powered and take my organization to the next level. And this is super important for you to choose because right now your background is technology. Probably there's some business thrown in there. What you can do is use generative AI now to create that innovation and move your organization forward. I mean, let's talk about Amazon for a second. At Amazon, you more or less cannot be a high-level business leader now without those 3 things. You need to know business, you need to know technology, and you need to know product management and innovation. That is what a leader is going to look like going forward in business. You need to choose that that's what you want to go after too. When you do that, go get some leadership sponsors. Somebody in your leadership needs to support you and this objective. Then start stepping up that adoption model and use proofs of concept as you go to reduce risk and gradually expand. Start with your own tech employees. Again, you've already got them captured and they are willing, interested, capable, and the tools are already built for this. Use it, enable that. Start learning innovation methods. And this is just how to do essentially product management, convert over to a product-based organization, identify opportunities, and start working on them for your business. And you will be one of these tech-powered leaders going forward. Now, I want to say just 1 or 2 things in closing here about partner and vendor selection, because this is changing fast. I think we're going through a whole life cycle around generative AI about every 6 to 9 months right now. And there's hundreds of different applications and partners and things out there. So the first thing you need to do is get some partners you trust who are interested in supporting you, interested in learning new ways to do things and exploring it with you for your success. So find those partners to help you on your journey. When you look at vendors out there in the generative AI space, take a look at how they're going to support your product, your company, and generative AI. I personally think that for most vertical products out there, generative AI is now table stakes. Every product has to have it, and that means don't pay more for it. It's going to be built into your vertical products, things like your CRM systems. Salesforce is really coming out strong with Einstein as an example. They're going to have these capabilities built into them. And pretty soon, every CRM is going to have them built in. Every professional service automation, every ERP. It's an expected table stakes thing. But when you look at the horizontal use cases of how you share information across an organization and use that for innovation, that's where you're going to be able to differentiate yourself. So find partners who can help you with that. And that's where you'll double down in your own data sciences team. Avoid vendor lock-in because it's changing so frequently. I wouldn't sign more than a 1-year contract for anything at this point, for any of these products that are out there. All right. And with that, I think if you do these things today, you should be able to be one of those people who can capture some of these supposed trillions of dollars of benefit of what's coming with generative AI. I hope that has been helpful. I'm Trent Gillespie, and I just talk to leaders about doing this and find the best ways every day. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I started Twitter, and that's my email address. I'll be happy to help you out. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to your questions in just a minute. Get those into the comments, and we'll take them. Go ahead and back over to you, Sai.
Thank you very much, Trent. Thanks for a very deeply insightful presentation and for all the practical advice. I'm sure all of the participants on the webinar today have taken away some key perspectives from your presentation, and hopefully they will all be able to apply some of those perspectives within their respective organizations. So thanks again for that wonderful presentation. I would like to take this opportunity to spend a few minutes uh, providing a brief perspective on what Quadrant is able to bring to the table in terms of generative AI capabilities and solutions. I would like to take a few minutes to share with all of you a quick presentation on what we are doing and how we may be able to assist some of you within your generative AI journeys. So very quickly, we are a full-service technology services organization. We are headquartered in Redmond, Washington, right next to the Microsoft campus. We are a global company. We are a team of 3,000 professionals spread across various locations, various global locations, predominantly US and India, and of course, many locations in Canada, South America, Europe, as well as Asia. We've been growing rapidly over the past several years. And in terms of what we do, as I said, we are a full service technology services company. We cater to a broad range of clients, both in the global 100 space as well as mid market space. We provide cloud computing services, be it in terms of migrating your applications or data workloads to the cloud. We are deeply into data and analytics, which is what helped us jumpstart our hyper automation practice, which is primarily a combination of your RPA, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all of those data science, and all of those capabilities. So we bring pretty much the end-to-end capabilities that you would find with any large, technology services company. In terms of what we do in the artificial intelligence and machine learning space, we bring the entire gamut of services that you need, right from strategy all the way to selecting appropriate technologies. Uh, like Trent said, you got to start with experimentation. So we are helping a number of clients experiment with some use cases, getting proofs of concepts and pilots off the ground, and then taking them to production scale deployments. And of course, we have a strong data annotation, data labeling practice, which is very key to launching any data science or machine learning project. And we bring that across a number of domains, be it machine learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning, all of those disciplines. And we have experts on all the popular platforms and languages, be it Python programming, R programming. We work across a number of popular platforms like Azure Machine Learning Studio, AWS SageMaker, TensorFlow. All of those technologies is what we can bring deep expertise on. And we've done a number of interesting projects across computer vision, natural language processing, anomaly detection. All of those use cases is what we have delivered successfully over the last year or two. Now, in terms of specifically generative AI, Trent touched upon a number of interesting developments that have been happening in the marketplace. And if you look at some of the predictions that some of the big consulting firms are talking about, there is tremendous economic value that is being predicted. McKinsey says there's going to be $4.4 trillion worth of economic value that is going to be added in the next few years from generative AI. If you add embedding generative AI into most of the software that is being used on a day-to-day basis across the organizations, that value could go even further higher. And in terms of what this value, where this value is coming from, they say that it's mostly coming from things like customer operations, sales and marketing, software engineering, and R&D. Those are the core areas where they predict 75% of this value is going to come from. And overall, they predict that the productivity across all types of activities, workplace activities, is going to go up by about 3.3% year over year. So that's phenomenal in terms of looking at the global GDP of every country, every company that is able to contribute to the GDP. That's tremendous growth, just in terms of applying these technologies. And if you look at the technologies that are driving generative AI, it's not just ChatGPT. when you have competition for ChatGPT, there are a number of platforms that are emerging, like Claude. Google has come up with their own generative AI. Meta has come up with their own platform. So the space is going to explode in terms of options, and there's going to be specialized capabilities that each of these platforms is going to come up with. And the adoption itself is soaring, right? I mean, we've seen that ChatGPT was able to get to 1 million users just in less than a week. Likewise, GitHub Copilot has 400,000 subscribers. Again, these are specialized AI programmers, and they were able to ramp that up to 400,000 developers in just a month. And then if you look at the use cases and applications, we're talking about thousands of applications and use cases. So the space is ripe for innovation and adoption. And what we as a company we are doing in this space is, rather than focusing on the use cases and applications, which we think is going to explode, there's probably going to be even more adoption, and there are probably going to be thousands of more use cases and applications that are going to come out. We thought we are probably better off enabling those use cases and building foundational capabilities that will allow organizations to innovate and come up with their own use cases and their own applications to drive business value within their respective organizations. So what we are doing is we are building some core enabling capabilities based off of the assets that are currently existing within each organization, and leveraging those assets and using the generative AI technology to surface a variety of information to users, both internal and external. That is our broader strategy. And I would like to take a few minutes to kind of quickly run you through a couple of these capabilities. So we've built two solution frameworks. These are both based on the generative AI technology. One is a capability where you can upload Excel data or CSV data into a chatbot like interface, and you are able to quickly answer questions using natural language type input. Rather than building elaborate reporting on simple data sets, this is an alternative to quickly get answers to questions on data sets that you need to analyze very quickly. The other is what we're calling an enterprise chatbot framework. We're branding it a Quickie. What this does is primarily it pulls information from a number of your enterprise repositories, be it your knowledge base, existing on a platform like SharePoint, or FAQ documents that you might have stored in network drives. It might be your website content. It might be your YouTube posts, or transcripts, Facebook posts. Uh, Pretty much the entire gamut of data, content, and information that you have across the enterprise. And our end goal is to be able to bring transactional information from platforms like ERP, CRM, be it your Salesforce, be it your SAP or line of business applications. The idea was to have a single interface through which you are able to query the enterprise information and be able to answer those questions quickly and easily, rather than having to spend hours analyzing the information and then coming up with the answers that you need, either for your internal users or for your external users. So that's really the capabilities that we are trying to work on at Quadrant. Uh, I would like to quickly show you both of these use cases before we close out. So I'm going to start with the Excel upload use case first. Hope you're all able to see this. The idea is to upload any kind of Excel file.
Sai, actually, we can't see your Excel document.
I'm sorry. Bear with me 1 second. Can you see it, Sandeep, now?
Yes, that's visible now.
Great.
Thank you.
So I'm actually going to be uploading a sample file, a sample Excel file. Now, what this data is it's a dummy data set. It basically comprises of order information for cars, motorcycles, and a bunch of other products. And if you see on the right hand side, these are all the attributes of the data that you can see. And I can ask any questions like, bear with me 1 minute. I'm trying to look at some of the prompts that my team has provided here. Okay, so if you see that response, it's basically converting the natural language question into something that the data can understand, and it is generating a response in natural language. I can also try asking for a data to retrieve the response in a tabular fashion. I have the option to display the response in both tabular as well as text format. So if you see the question, provide sum of sales that have quantity ordered greater than or equal to 50, and it basically provides all of the different order numbers and the quantity ordered and the sales for each of those. So that's a simple way in which we are using generative AI to build a capability to query data rather than having to build elaborate reporting on top of it. The other use case that we have built is the enterprise chatbot. Sandeep, are you able to see this screen? The new screen that I'm trying to bring up?
No, Sai, not yet.
Bear with me 1 second. How about now?
Yes, we can see it.
Hope you're all able to see this. So this is again, the idea is to bring all of the enterprise information together. Once you have that, you can build any number of use cases. Of course, we're looking at this as a chatbot interface right now, but we can look at any other type of an interface. Right now, what we are indexing as part of this solution is documents on SharePoint, YouTube content. We have a set of dummy data on a MySQL database, as well as YouTube transcripts. We have, and of course, our own website content. So those are the sources that we are indexing for this particular. If you look at our website, there is quite a bit of information about what we do, what services we provide. So let me ask a question as to what services does Quadrant provide? Okay, so if you see, it returns very pertinent information, and it also shows where that information is coming from. It points to a particular web page where we have our services information, and it displays that information as well. So likewise, if I have to, let's say, we are actually looking at, for this particular demo, we're indexing, we're parsing content from a particular YouTube channel, which is very popular. It's one of the popular web podcasts. So let me ask a question related to that particular channel. Okay, so if you look at this answer, It's coming from this particular YouTube channel, and it shows information about, the question is how to learn and master a new skill, and it does provide very pertinent information about that. So under the covers, where we are using the OpenAI technology and the OpenAI APIs to be able to get information from, doesn't matter what the source is, we are able to index documents on a SharePoint drive, content from websites, content from YouTube channels, and things like that. So wanted to give you a brief perspective on what we are able to bring to the table in terms of uh, generative AI capabilities, and hopefully that gives you a perspective of what is possible to do with this technology. And I'm sure you are probably experimenting with this technology within your organizations, and we are glad to jump on follow-up calls if required, and help you discover more about the possibilities. With that, I'll stop my presentation, and we'll open it up for questions from the audience. And Trent, please feel free to answer the questions that are coming in. Thank you.
That sounds great. I'm happy to do that. Let me just look down here, and I can speak to some of these that are coming in here. The first one, for a company who isn't into AI yet, how do you think they can utilize generative AI or LLMs? Can chatbots be provided as a service? So yes. Let's maybe answer the second part of this first. Chatbots, definitely, that's a great place to start an organization. I think every company is going to need a chatbot that's AI powered basically now. Just like Sai was showing, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and you can make it really useful, right? So certainly that's a place to start, and there's a lot of options out there for doing it. But I think that's now just an expectation. Every company is going to need to have these. So the question is, what can you do more than that? And I think there's a ton of options. And this is where I think innovation becomes important, is how to look at it and identify those. Now, I'll give an example offhand just from Amazon, because I'm very happy to see them now beginning to include it. One of the things that they're doing now, and they're running this in tests, you may not have it with your account, but they're actually summarizing all of the user reviews of any product. And so now if you go into the reviews of anything, I mean, it could be a new microphone, a household supply, whatever, instead of just getting a star rating, you're actually getting something that says the general feedback on this product is it's good, it's cost effective, it smells great, whatever it may be. But there's also the top two concerns are, whatever that may be. And so it goes across thousands upon thousands of reviews, looks for those consistent items, what people are saying, and then summarizes it in a really effective way. So that's just one way a software company could potentially use it. Look at it and put it across your user reviews. And there's a myriad of different ways. I do think that summarization as a task is one of the most useful areas to start. Look at your data and figure out how can you summarize it in ways that are helpful. So I'd start there. Is there another one there, Sandeep, you'd like to look at? Let's see. Sectors like hospitality or product companies benefit. I think it's actually very similar. So there are several different categories of ways in which you can use generative AI. And I think that these are very similar to knowledge work categories. And so research, I think that's probably the biggest one I think of offhand for hospitality. And so I think about something like your customer, if they, again, hospitality could be a bit of a generic term, but if you're a hotel, we'll say, you've got a customer who's going to come stay at your hotel. Probably they've stayed with you before you know something about them. It could very easily be that you create a summary of what you know about them in 1 or 2 sentences. And so when they check in, the person checking them in knows that detail about them and can make it more personable, and can even look for opportunities to exceed what that customer expects based on it. If he knows something like, hey, they typically like to have a floor that's higher in the hotel, proactively offer it to them, even if they've never actually said that before. That allows you to exceed customer expectations and do something different. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. That's on the customer side. Internally in hospitality or others, there's a lot of ways as well. But that's, again, focusing on the cost saving side. Maybe it is meeting and collaboration, right? Anyway, there's a lot of ways to go there. You just have to start and figure these out, break them down and prioritize them. How much importance for the prompt in generative AI, which depends on LLM? So the prompt that you provide is very important, of course. And I think of this in 2 different ways. When a person is working directly with a generative AI app, it could be directly with ChatGPT or Claude or any of the others, they need to really know how to utilize it well to get the right results. That requires some training and experience. I'll come back to best how to do that in just a second. On a systematic side, though, it's also very important because one of the key things with generative AI that, again, a lot of tech leaders and others are missing is you can now access it through API, similar to what Quadrant is doing and the demonstration they just gave. And so when you have it access through API, you still need to create prompts. And how good those prompts are is going to dictate what the quality of the responses are. So your question is, how important is it? It's critically important. When you're writing them, you need to do them effectively, test them. There's even now systems for A/B testing for prompts that are being created, so you can see what the different types of results are. If you're an individual, I think there's a couple important things. It comes down to the context. So giving it the context as to who you are or why you are interacting with it. Tell it what you want, how you want it, and why you want it. If you do those things, it's a very easy way to get the results that are useful. Okay. I'll start with our own model without using an existing model. So you're going to have kind of the LLM, your foundational model, and that's something like ChatGPT or Claude or Bard or whatever it's going to end up being that you choose to use. It's not going to make any sense of you to use your own to replace that. You need to use one of those. The question is how to augment it with your own data. And so I mentioned during the presentation that RAG option. That is very important. That's very useful. And there's a lot of systems that use it today, and it can be built. Every provider, Microsoft, Amazon, whoever is now recognizing this and building it into their tool sets as a capability. Or you could potentially go and purchase something off the shelf that does it. So there's a lot of different ways out there. I would search for that term, retrieval augmented generation, and find tools that support it. Or go out and find a partner like Quadrant who's able to help you get access to your first party data. When you do that, the power is going to be shown of generative AI. Question is, for the software industry, how may it help other than chatbots? So I think this is kind of similar to the earlier question I answered, in that, are you looking at external customer facing and business model improvements, or are you looking at internal cost reductions? And you've got opportunities on both sides. Certainly in a software industry, there's a huge benefit to just improving how you create software. And you should be using that today. Maybe it's integration with GitHub. Microsoft has stuff. Amazon has their code whisperer. There's a lot out there you just need to be doing today if you're developing software. You must know that to be effective. On the customer side, again, it depends on your product, but how can you come up with customer benefits that are compelling, that are supported by generative AI? And you really just need to sit down and think through those. Think through the opportunities that generative AI can provide. Now, I should just say here that generative AI at the end of the day is just a tool. So you should be still focused on what the benefit is to the customers, and make sure generative AI is the right tool for you. It doesn't do various things well, and so maybe it's not the right thing. So I always suggest starting with the customer, what your benefits are, and then find the right technology to support it. All right, how's it going to add value to BI and data visualization? Take ways for both BI expert. So I think that add value. So I think a lot of it is research and summarization. When I think about BI, in the past, I've had, own BI teams. Typically, they give out a tabular formatted document, right? Lots of data. The change is you're going to go through it. Instead of getting a tabular form, you're going to give a written style response. So leaders can easily find the information they want. They don't need to look at a complicated table. Instead, they just get the results elevated directly to them. That's primarily it. Data visualization, I think that's going to change just a ton because there's so many new ways of visualizing data. And then I think it's going to be dramatically easier on both. My guess is that BI people are going to move more into just the data sciences side in getting good quality data and enabling users to get the data out they want using ChatGPT or generative AI.
And Trent, just to add to that, the demo that we were showing a short while ago with the Excel, Excel upload, that's really the intent of being able to address the BI question through NLP rather than having to do a typical reporting. And our end state vision for the other enterprise framework that we were showing, we want to be able to connect to data warehouses, data lakes, and be able to answer questions about the data in NLP terms rather than having to build elaborate reports and dashboarding and things like that.
Yeah, very good point. All right, great question here. What are the potential risks and challenges? There's a ton, frankly, right? It's early days, just like any disruptive technology or any GPT that's been invented. They start with challenges until they get refined, and that can take time. And so the top challenges today, of course, is accuracy. I think that's really the key one. Making sure that it's connected to a data and done with prompts that ensures it gives accurate data. There's certainly now good ways coming out to do that. There are concerns around bias, privacy, ethics, and things. So you need to be very aware of those. Honestly, my perspective is you have those challenges today in your organizations. You know how to manage those today. I would not use generative AI because of them, but go into them eyes wide open and monitor how their privacy and security works, the same as you do with any other tool. But those do exist. You do need to pay attention to them and just make sure that you have some mitigations in place.
Thanks, Trent. I think that brings us to the end of the session. We've just gone over a little bit over the scheduled time, but thanks everyone for joining today. Hit us up on our website, www.quadrantresource.com. You can also reach us out on LinkedIn. You feel free to reach out to Trent as well on his LinkedIn page. But it's been a pleasure hosting you, and I hope you found this session helpful. Look forward to connecting with some of you offline and helping you with your generative AI journey. Thank you. Thanks, Trent.
Thank you, Sai. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.